Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Hello dear learners, I Dr. Jay Jivani welcome you at our Chaitanya studio on behalf of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University Ahmedabad. And today we are going to talk about linguistic problems of translations. So when we talk about linguistic problems of translations, the very first thing which we need to understand or remember is Andre Lefebvre, who talked about linguistic aspects of translation in his essay. So there are three types of translations which he talked about. Linguistic translation in terms of interlingual translation, intralingual translation, and intersemiotic translation. What is interlingual translation? Interlingual translation is when you translate from one language to another language. What do you mean by that? Suppose if I have to translate something from English to Hindi, then it is interlingual translation. When I translate within language, then it is known as intralingual translation. Suppose I am explaining something to you in English itself. Suppose I have to make you understand what is chalkstick, or I have to make you understand what is duster. Then I will explain the same in English itself. Then it is intralingual translation. Interlingual includes two languages. You translate from one language to another language. Intralingual, within language, you describe something, when you explain something. And then comes intersemiotic translation, when the whole platform is changed. For example, if I translate a novel into film, then it is intersemiotic translation, when the whole chord of the language is changed. When the chord of writing or words is changed, it is intersemiotic translation. Now, let us discuss about linguistic problems of translation. So translation is much more than covering words. You don't convert just words from one language to another. As I said, intersemiotic translation is not about changing the words, but the whole form is changed of the language. It involves bridging cultural nuances, idiomatic expressions, and also structural differences. In English, we have SVO, subject, verb, object. But when we talk about Hindi, it is subject plus object plus verb. So it also includes structural differences of the language. So when we talk about linguistic problems of translation, it arises because of languages encode meaning uniquely. The way it is conveyed in English might be conveyed differently in Hindi. It also requires translations to navigate subtle challenges. So, understanding these barriers, understanding these problems helps us achieve clarity, and it helps us in preserving the original messages or essence of the language or essence of the message. That's why we have to understand what are the types or what are the problems when it comes to linguistic problems. When we understand that, we would be able to keep the essence of the language, of the message while translating. So this presentation, in this lecture, we will explore the key linguistic challenges in translation, which will include issues of untranslatability, semantic shifts, syntactic divergences, and cultural context. After that, what we will do, we will also examine practical strategies that a translator can use when you are translating, that you can use to overcome these challenges, these problems. And that's why we would be able to ensure that your translation is faithful and also effective communication across languages. When you are converting the chord, it does not make any difference. The essence is maintained. So, when we talk about the untranslatability debate, is it a myth or is it a reality? So, when we define the untranslatability, if we want to define untranslatability, some words or phrase lack exact equivalence, and then it creates gaps across the languages. For example, words like Saude, which is the Portuguese word, or any other words in other languages. Suppose take Hindi, Sanskriti. It present unique cultural emotions which are hard to translate directly. So, what is untranslatability? When some words or phrases, they don't have exact equivalents. I am not saying synonyms. I am not saying similar words. I am saying when some words or phrases or idioms, when they do not have exact equivalence. So what happens? It creates gaps in the meaning across languages. For example, here the words which are given are Portuguese or German. For example, let's take Hindi. Word like Sanskriti, Bharatiya. Does Bharatiya mean Indian or is it different? Does it present unique cultural emotions? Are they same? Yes or no? That's a myth. Or is it a reality? So here, perfect equivalent is rare. No two equivalents, exact equivalents are there in any languages, even within languages. So what translators do? They employ either explanations or they paraphrase in terms of footnotes or they adopt the cultural words. For example, Diwali. They will adopt it in English. Like now we have words like Diwali and Roti. Roti is now an English word. How? It is adopted in the language, in English. And that's how it would convey the meaning. When we talk about semantic loss and gain, let's navigate through that. What is semantic loss? It is often translations omit or dilute meaning, losing connotations embedded in the source language. For example, literary metaphors may lose depth when cultural references are unfamiliar to the target language. The literary metaphors might not be there in the translations, we might give it in the footnotes. That's considered as a semantic loss because they are not familiar, they are unfamiliar. What is semantic gain? Sometimes translators add meanings and it enhances the reader's understanding. How does it occur? It can occur through explanatory adaptive phrasing that enriches context. We are now discussing the theoretical aspect. We will take a case study for all these problems that we are talking about. I would want you to write down the notes over here, and when we do the case study, we will discuss about that with examples of Hindi and English in the next lecture. When we talk about structural divergences, syntax and grammar challenges, for example. When we talk about English language, it is subject, verb and object. Whereas in Hindi, it is subject plus object plus verb. So languages vary greatly in sentence construction. When you are constructing a sentence, it's not the same. The word orders are not the same. When we talk about grammar rules, for example, in Hindi, there are no articles, a and the that we use. Hindi do not have that. Hindi does not have that. For example, Hindi is also gendered language, which English is not. When we say kursi, it's a feminine gender that it carries, the noun. In English, there are no genders. So there are differences in tenses, genders, articles and even agreement, complement, direct translation, right? So word order is one of the problems. Grammar rules is the second problem. The third could be morphological complexity. For example, some languages use affixes extensively, while others rely on separate words, affecting fluidity in translation. They might not have affixes like other languages have. So, when we talk about linguistic problems of translation, there are challenges of word order, there are challenges of grammar rules, there are challenges of morphological complexity, that are there, we have to discuss and find the solutions for that. Then comes cultural context. You don't have to literally translate everything. You have to go beyond words. Literal is word to word. For example, contextual meaning. Words gain meanings shaped by cultural experiences and historical background. The moment I say Bharatiya Sanskruti, it is context within the word. The meaning lies in the context of the word. Social norms like respect. The moment I say Namaskar and I translate it as hello in English, is it an equivalent translation or not? Politeness levels, taboos, for example, words like any words, for example, queerness is a taboo. We do not have any kind of equivalent words in Hindi, and that's why it requires adjustments in tone and phrasing. Contextual meanings, then second is social norms, and the third is symbolism. What about symbolism? Can we have slide? For example, colors. When somebody dies in Indian culture, we wear white clothes, whereas in Western culture, black represents death. So there are symbolisms. For example, colors, animals, and objects that hold distinct symbolic meanings, which are very essential for accurate translation. The moment I say somebody was wearing black over there, it might symbolizes the death of somebody, whereas in Indian context, black is not considered. You cannot wear when somebody dies. So there are also cultural context which includes contextual meanings, social norms and symbolism. And at that time, when we are talking about linguistic translations, we'll have to go beyond these words, beyond the literal meanings. Then comes idioms and figurative languages which are there, which requires creative solutions for us. For example, you'll have to identify the meaning out of it. You have to understand the literal and figurative meanings in the source language. At times, the meaning would be very figurative, which you will have to find out when the sentence is written over there. You'll have to identify the meaning, whether it is a literal or whether it is a figurative. And then you will find equivalents while you are when you are translating from one language to another language. We'll have to locate an idiomatic expression in the target language conveying the same idea. We'll discuss that in detail when we are taking a case study of Hindi and English. And then also, if you do not find the figurative meaning, if you do not find equivalence, you might have to use explanation. When there are no equivalent meanings, suppose there are no idioms that exist similar or equivalent in other language, you will have to provide an explanatory translations or at the end footnotes. Then we talk about technical terminology. At that time, you will have to achieve accuracy and consistency through technical terminologies. You will have to manage technical terminologies. At that time, what you will do? You will use glossaries or databases to maintain consistent term usage across text. For example, if I use the word glossary and put an equivalent to it in Hindi, everywhere I should use the same word which I have used in the first chapter. Then you require subject expertise. You will have to collaborate with domain experts to ensure accurate understanding of the technical context. I might be very good with language, but when I talk about medicine, I would require an expert from the medicine field. And we can also utilize software tools. For example, CAD tools are there or machine translations are there without sacrificing the problem. How do we overcome these linguistic barriers? Now, let us talk about strategies for effective translation. There are three which I have given. There are various, many. First, you have to do in-depth research. Thoroughly research source and target languages, not just the meanings, not just the language, but the cultures you'll have to look after, subject matters expertise that you'll have to look after. This is the one of the first strategies. What? You'll have to do in-depth research of the sentences, of the language, be it cultural, be it subject expertise. Then, as I said, you have to get it reviewed, and it should be collaborative review, which means you have to do linguistic review as well as subjective review, subject review that we talk about. Engage native speakers and experts for feedback to enhance accuracy and naturalness. And the last strategy that we can use is continuous learning. Keep updated on linguistic trends, evolving meanings. You can evolve the meanings like Shakespeare did. He coined so many words for it. And advances in translation technology. In the next class, we will come up with a case study to understand linguistic problems of translations. Till that, keep learning, enjoy learning. Thank you for watching us.